We're back at it again for another live one for all of you Biconics fanatics out there. I hate you, JVL, but we are back with another Pinfall Playback review, this time for AEW's All Out 2023 pay-per-view. The pay-per-views this weekend were actually all pretty good, but as always, I can never do these reviews alone, and I am joined by some familiar, some newer folks to the pay-per-view reviews. Once again, joining me from yesterday's Payback, this man is just going to become a regular staple around here. I'm going to make sure of it. Luis, happy to have you back, my friend. What did you think of All Out?
Happy to be back. Thanks for having me today, guys. I thought All Out was amazing. I thought it left All In the rearview mirror. I woke up this morning and I didn't want to watch one match from last week. I just wanted to rewatch the entire show from yesterday.
I think that's going to be a common statement between all of us as we go through this review. This was so much better than the London show, no shade. It's like the switch got flipped. They're like, listen, we need to make this work because the build was ass. Joining me also today is my Ring of Honor co-host, as well as sometime filling in for Rampage, which was an interesting experience. JVL, my friend, I'm happy you're here.
I'm with you, Luis. This was an amazing show that I'd want to watch again, and I made this statement off camera, but I think that this year has not been brought to you by dives. This year has been brought to you by B shows being better than the A shows. Both WWE and this, they have been better.
And of course, we have a third reviewer today joining this little quattro. The newest member and my co-host for NXT and officially Impact Wrestling now, Will. I am happy to have you here for this review, my friend.
Thanks for having me. Overall, I really liked it. I thought it was pretty powerful. It had its ups and downs, as they all do. This one feels more spectacle, cavemen fighting all the time, is what it really kind of felt like. Which is cool, and I enjoy it. Blood makes the grass grow. It held my attention. I don't have that many notes because literally the last half of the thing, I was watching it and not taking notes.
But let's just dive straight in. So really quickly, let's go over 0 Hour. Just like the rest of this pay-per-view, 0 Hour was thrown together really quickly. The first thing that opened 0 Hour was this over-budget charity battle royale. The winner gets $50,000 donated to the charity of their choice. Now, when they say charity of their choice, there's a charity of their choice within the city of Chicago, because I have questions, or like actual charities.
I'm not going to make any questions about this. They had a charity in mind before they started, and it was one of the best ones in Chicago they could have given to.
Seriously.
Not any of that. The Chicago public schools need that money, and $50,000 going to them was perfect.
Listen,
so good on.
The education system in general needs all the support we can get. Hangman Page won. It's like, how do you put Hangman Page on 0 Hour? I'm like, well, in my head, I'm like, that's what happens when you don't put him in a match.
I thought the same thing. That was actually me that said that in the comment. I was like, why is he on 0 Hour? I think he's too big a name. He's a part of the Elite. He's a part of the Dark Order. He's everywhere in the card. I just feel like he's kind of been used as a background right now, but the moment you saw him in the match, did you really think anyone else was going to win?
No.
Nope. The entirety of 0 Hour seemed to me to be, let's put a couple big names on it to get people to watch. We'll have a couple good matches. It'll be like an ROH taping, and then we'll go from there.
I mean, I wasn't surprised who was left. We had 2/3 of Mogul Embassy, Hangman Page, Kyle Fletcher killing it out here. They're really pushing Kyle right now. Hangman Page waiting, then we find out later he donates it to the Chicago education system. Love it. Great. This was really the only match I cared about, in all honesty. The trios match between Hikaru Shida, Willow Nightingale, and hometown hero Sky Blue taking on Diamante, Mercedes Martinez, and Athena, being accompanied by her minion, Billy Stark.
Unlike other people who were like, why did we throw this together? And I felt bad for Shida, who was put into this match.
Seriously.
At least for the storyline thing, they were planning to do Athena versus Billy Starks for the ROH Women's title at this point. And I'm glad that Billy was not cleared to wrestle because that storyline needs to percolate in ROH. It was good to see all these women on the card. Shida deserves so much better.
Definitely, but I'm not going to be upset because pretty much these are all my girls right here.
More Willow, the better.
Listen,
That's how I feel.
Willow's great.
She is being shot up to the moon, and I love it. I feel like her outcoming party was Sasha's improv, giving her that championship. Now we know that Sasha was supposed to go over in that match. Mercedes, I'm sorry. Don't want to upset people. My God, Willow is just a star, and I would not be surprised if she is AEW Women's Champ in the next 6 months.
And then the most questionable match, Jeff Jarrett out here supposedly being the behind the stage person and also getting a check for wrestling, with Jay Lethal and Satnam Singh taking on the AEW Trios champions, the Acclaim, and daddy ass himself, Billy Gunn. With Dennis Rodman and company, then, by the way, I should add that.
I'll tell you, we try not to compare AEW with the other company, but there was a little bit of lying on the commentary team yesterday.
Oh, big
I
time.
can't. I've been in the ring with Jay Lethal. That man is not 6'3". I can't get over it.
I remember that. I was just like, bro, that is an absolute lie.
Maybe they've only seen Lethal with Jericho, where he's wearing his lifts backstage in the promos, and they're up higher. Who knows?
I didn't know MJF lent him his shoes. That's so weird.
Oh my.
I thought you meant Julia Hart, which were the actual like almost foot tall when she was wearing them.
Oh yeah, those are crazy.
Listen. This was a foregone conclusion. I knew who was going to win. I did laugh really hard. Billy Gunn's like, hold up. Sorry, dude. We have our own ref. It's Aubrey. Get out here. More Aubrey on my screen, please. And this is where I have a problem with the internet wrestling community. Why are we being such haters? Aubrey is the best referee. I will die on that hill.
The two best referees in professional wrestling right now are Aubrey and Jessica in the other company. So
Yeah.
people just need to
I
get
love
over it.
Jess.
Do have a third. I know it's controversial, but Bryce Remsburg has been on fire.
Bryce Remsburg is great, too.
Between the Canadian Destroyer, I know his history of refereeing Invisible Man versus Invisible Stan.
I forgot.
As good as Aubrey, not as good as Jessica, but he is definitely like one of my favorites for selling the match as well. So
Absolutely. Like a modern day Charles Robinson. Love it.
The Acclaim and Billy Gunn, a.k.a. Daddy Ass, retained the AEW Trios Championships.
I actually thought this was a smart decision by AEW to book the Acclaimed right before the show opened because it really got the crowd rocking, because the whole scissoring thing, it just gets the crowd going. So you go from this to the most popular superstar in the company. It was really smart to start the pay-per-view that way.
That was 0 Hour. Let's jump into the main card. We open up the main card for All Out with the Ring of Honor Tag Team Championships. You have the Dark Order versus Better Than You, Baby, your champions. MJF leaving for a little bit, so then it's a 2-on-1 between Dark Order and Adam Cole. I was like, oh, that's a really cool idea. If I haven't seen it twice already within the last 6 to 7 months. Dax did the same thing at Forbidden Door. We had this earlier this year at Revolution. So I was like, Roderick Strong, are you going to come down, help Adam Cole, and screw them out of the titles? And I was like, no, I'm overbooking this.
I was yelling that in the group chat. I'm like, he's coming out. Something's going to happen. Nigel McGuinness saying it'd be a smart thing for him to take the count-out loss. Excalibur said it wasn't his DNA, and I'm sitting there going, have you watched Adam Cole his entire career? That would be like the first thing he would think of normally.
Okay.
He hasn't changed his entire career.
Before we jump into this match, while it wasn't as crazy as Michael Cole being on whatever drugs he was on during the Payback pay-per-view, Nigel McGuinness was the only one trying to steer the ship in any direction. Somebody come get these menses, because Taz was on something. I love JR to death. There was also a lot of questionable things that we'll bring up during the women's match.
It was commentary from WCW in the 90s. Minus Tony Schiavone. It was really, really, really sexist.
I wish I could stand up right now and just give Nigel McGuinness a round of applause, because he really saved commentary for me all night. The other guys, I just feel like they need to find him his Jim Ross or whatever. If not, just let him be Joey Styles. Let him do it by himself.
I love this Dark Order that are actual vicious and vindictive. This is what I want to see from them.
All the video packages tonight were better at setting up all of these stories than even the last week or 2 weeks of stuff. And the package on the Dark Order showing how long they've been together, who they've trained, what's been going on, that drew you in completely and wanted you to make them win.
We started with 8 to 10 members of the Dark Order, and we're really only down to 3. Because either people are in different companies or are in different factions now. Looking at you, Preston Vance. We're in school.
I really thought this whole match was designed to continue the MJF and Adam Cole story. I hate to say this because I know like there's a lot of Dark Order fans out there, but they were just used as a prop for this match. This was all about Adam Cole and MJF.
That's what their matches so far have been for these titles, is that's always focusing on those two. I will disagree with you that they were just used as a prop, because this got Silver over more than he has been in the last 6 to 8 months. Like how goofy he is, the fun part about a little bowling ball of a man beating the crap out of everyone. That back and forth sequence where they took Adam Cole and like did 7 moves in less than 30 seconds was incredible.
Also, I really appreciated Uno getting involved on the outside too, because normally he kind of just sits back and he just does yelling, but the fact that he gets a chair, actually gets physically involved in this match, this was the least manslaughtery/homicidal thing that we will see in this pay-per-view, because there's a couple other matches where I thought someone died. Don Callis almost committed murder. Screwdriver. Kind of disappointed that Dark Order didn't get the titles here. I would have loved that. Adam Cole and JF as a tag team parlay championship, but I think ultimately the Kingdom of take it on. And that match is going to be phenomenal. Completely honest. 'cause
Unless Samoa Joe finds a partner.
Better Than You Baby retains. This was a fun opener. Let's talk about what happened before the next match officially started.
So a couple of years ago, while Samoa Joe was walking to the ring to defend his NXT championship, MJF was one of the security guards, and he shoves him. And you could tell he gives him that classic MJF face, even though it was before he was really known.
Right.
And MJF has since done the exact same thing in AEW to another wrestler. But I thought it was really funny that Samoa Joe did it, and then just when you think like, oh, it was just a one-off spot, nope, MJF jumped on Twitter and told the world, I'm not the same guy from Brooklyn.
But then they set up, was it a little bit of a shot at Punk? Joe ends up putting him in the guillotine choke after a pull-apart brawl in the middle of the ring.
I thought FTR boys were going to be the ones to do at least a lot of. I love the pull apart brawl. Adam Cole's like, bro, what are you doing? Samoa Joe's like, nah, let's go, bro. I want to fight you. Samoa Joe is great. I love him to death. Samoa Joe can't do any wrong, in my opinion.
Well, this was also where that sign got popped up as well, like a CM Punk reference where it says Tony Khan cured cancer.
When I saw that sign, I was like, damn, the Chicago crowd is going in, and I'm trying to hear it.
This was a good venue, a good crowd. I mean,
Yeah.
Chicago's always tends to be a really good crowd most of the time. Hi, Minnie. Welcome to the review.
What's up? Just waiting for my laundry to be done. I was bored, so I sat at the top end.
That's good.
Will, you were saying?
So I love moments like this. These little. This to me is what keeps the event interesting. I just remember back in my day, back in the old
Good
days,
night, eh?
the matches would happen, and then the shit talk would happen right after, and then it would literally roll into the next match. This sort of gave me that vibe, and I was really loving it. Then the free for all happened, and the security folks came in. And it was super exciting.
Next match we have on the card is for the Ring of Honor Television Championship, where Samoa Joe is defending his title against the winner of the second Ring of Honor TV tournament that we've had within the last month and a half. It is Samoa Joe taking on the winner of that said tournament, Shane Taylor. Shane Taylor Productions.
I thought this show in general was all about making the next crop of stars. Like, we're going to push some people up the card, and we're going to introduce you to some people. Shane, yeah, he got his ass kicked most of the match. He did have some offense. That hanging stunner was... that might be one of my favorite spots of the night. I was like, that needs to be a finisher from somebody. I want more of him on the card. It was reminiscent of Team Taz, and when we first got like Powerhouse Hobbs and Ricky Starks and Hook, like that's what this feels like.
Until we got later in the night, I thought this was a really good big man slapping man meat thing because Joe knows how to be really agile with it, take it on with him, and Joe obliterated him, but not to the point where you didn't believe that he could have had a couple of hope spots. I did feel for Shane Taylor because he got one promo earlier on in the week to set him up, and he got to showcase some of his stuff, but honestly, it needed a little more back and forth if they wanted to make it believable. They're not going to let him lose until he beats Jay Lethal's record.
I still thought this was a fun match. Samoa Joe is one of my favorite wrestlers right now.
Yeah,
I
absolutely.
love it so much.
Samoa Joe at the end of his WWE run was injured a lot. And all of a sudden, he's just had this, this healthy streak. And he's been able to go out there and have these barn burner matches. And it's, what happened in WWE? What happened to their athletic staff? That they couldn't keep you healthy, my man. He seems like the Samoa Joe I saw at Rahway, New Jersey, wrestling Paul London. Like, what is going on right now?
This was the first of two big men meat clapping fest that we got. I also really love this next match for the TNT Championship. It's Luchasaurus, because people tend to forget him. Like, Christian is not the champion, but delusional Christian thinking he is the champion is one of my favorite things that has been happening on my television screen. Taking on the, oh my god, are you okay, every single time he wrestles Darby Allin. This match also kind of ruled. Darby, I love you. You're one of my favorite wrestlers right now. I think you're really, really cool. However, I want you to have longevity in your career. And so every time that I see you wrestle, you are always going full throttle, 200%. And I love the passion. But I need you to pick and choose things between last week denting a coffin with your back, doing a coffin drop on it, twice may I add throughout that match last week, and then diving into a chair spot, and then having Luchasaurus put the steps on your back as you walking up it. I know they train for these types of things, but Luchasaurus is not a tiny man. That is a lot of muscle and meat on that man, and even if it was angled in a way where you don't feel the pressure 100%, that still hurt. The other problem is that he needs to slow down, but it's because he does these crazy things that this match kind of ruled. I was just happy to see Luchasaurus wrestle again because it's been a while since I've seen him wrestle.
Personally, I think that Darby's like one of the top guys, especially pillar-wise, right? And this is company, we just hit the 4-year anniversary. They just posted about how Jericho, it was 4 years ago, like this week, that he won the AEW championship. So we've had 4 years of lots of fans knowing who Darby is. He's on TV a lot. He's been TNT champion a lot. And typically by this point, you would think one of the veterans, especially the guy that's with him, that knows about longevity, would be like, hey, that's it. You did what you had to do. You showcased yourself with all these athletic, dangerous moves. Now let's dial it back. Let's get you a different skill set where you're more in the ring and you do things just like based off the top rope, but into the ring. He's just going to go out there and give you everything every single night until he can't do it anymore. And I'm afraid that we're not going to get him at like 35. He's going to wind up retiring early.
He's going to turn into Dynamite Kid.
Ow.
That would be terrible. Hopefully he doesn't turn into the type of man Dynamite Kid was.
Now the headshots he's gotten, I wouldn't be surprised.
Yeah, I mean, I'm a big fan of Tom, but I just really feel like, yeah, I agree with you. That's a great comparison, honestly. I love that.
The one thing I want to add to this is watching Darby go through this match. Orange Cassidy did the better babyface under peril on the night. Darby couldn't touch that, and it just didn't work as well. And I feel like Orange does it safer. Orange does it more pointed and not just like scattershot. And I think if Darby did that instead of just being like you said, all over the ring, but really like focus on a way that he's going to overcome this, it might work better.
I definitely agree with you there. People don't want to talk about it, but the time he spent in Chikara really designed this version of his character. The comedy, yeah, he started that, 10 years ago? He started this freshly squeezed stuff, but it took him 10 years to get to this point. And that's what I'm saying. Like, I feel like he probably had a lot of veterans behind him. Darby has that. He's got the entire elite. How could you not learn from Rocker's Light?
Sting.
And how?
He's
Yeah,
got
exactly.
Sting.
The Young Bucks have gone on record saying that they hate the fact that they have to wrestle as much as they do now. They don't want to work as much. We don't want that from Darby. I want more. I was hoping that Sting's retirement match, he puts over Darby Allin, and then boom, that's like the rise of Darby. But I don't think we're going to get that.
Will, this is your first introduction to the wrestling dinosaur known as Luchasaurus.
Yeah. Yeah, what'd you think?
Well, this was an awesome match. This is where, and I'm one of those people that look at the little technical things that most people probably don't look at, or, logistical things. And this is the first one. There were some really shitty calls. I'm sorry. There was a couple times I'm like, that should have been a count out. Nothing pisses me off more than that shit. If you're gonna do it, then fucking do it. I get the show business aspect of wrestling. I was there back in the 70s and 80s. But when a count happened, and that's where it ended. I have seen the 1, 2, oh, you got out of it. I yelled at the screen a couple of times because I was just like, nothing irritates me more than that. If the match is done, it's done.
Yeah.
3 count. 1, 2, 3. And I hate Christian Cage, and I wish someone would take him out.
Him and his turtlenecks.
Sexton Hardcastle's come to get him.
I mean, I just love how he runs like a little girl when people come at him. I was enjoying this match so much, and then that miscount happened, and now it just ruined it for me. Cool with that. I'm cool with rule breaking. That is cool. But when it comes to interference and someone's coming in from the side, but when it comes to referees and counts, that shit should be solid. For people like me, it pisses me off.
Mm-hmm. I think it's such a harsh contrast between last week and this week, because if you look, last week Darby, he hurts himself on that coffin drop, right? And Christian pulls a pro move, and he starts nailing him on the outside, kind of like telling him to calm down, which we're not hearing that, but we know that's what's going on, right? This week you mentioned a count out. What's so hard with somebody like Christian, who obviously talked to these guys like Lucha, or Sting, who obviously talked to a guy like Darby, telling them hey, when the ref's counting, you just need to roll in for a second and roll out to stop the count. Like that, you talk about 70s and 80s, that's how they kept the matches going.
Okay, let's address the Nick Wade situation. If wrestlers are going to bring other people out, I'm not expecting you to start fighting Luchasaurus left and right. In my head, I'm like, that causes a DQ, which means Darby doesn't get to win the title. Nick, I love you, but you are a prodigy. Why were you out? And I don't know if it's because I'm getting jaded or whatever. If you're going to come out with wrestlers, I want you to be involved in some form of capacity. All we got between these two was an argument. Nick took the stairs off of Darby, but that was about it. Like when AR Fox and Swerve took on Nick and Darby, Prince Nana was running interference from time to time, and I was like, that's how you utilize it. Nick looked like he was running on adrenaline, and I could see him thinking about where do I need to be, especially towards the end when he does this spot with Christian. I can see on your face that you're trying to remember what you rehearsed and where you need to be and what you need to do.
Like a savior trope comes into last minute to protect his friend. It felt weird. And staying part. Okay, you did your thing, so are you just gonna stand there now? Do something!
That's when you brawl Christian to the back.
Ultimately, so Luchasaurus retains the title here. Darby is left broken. The people that they chose to come out to save Darby was like the most randomest group of individuals I have ever seen in my life.
I'm just waiting for someone to come running in with like a bottle of chloroform. Like chloroform somebody. Literally, it's like, where did you get a bottle of chloroform? I mean, it's like
this day and age.
Speedball Mike Bailey literally not too long ago had a match with a blow-up doll. It was the greatest thing I've ever seen in my life. This match on paper, had no right to be as baller as it was, but the fact that they gave this match time, and Hobbs and Miro like showed up and showed out.
Meet forever.
This was probably my most favorite match of the night. This match between Powerhouse Hobbs and Miro, fucking fantastic on so many levels for me.
Here's your insight for all the people watching this. Mikey in the chat was literally overjoyed by all of this stuff, talking about needing a cigarette after every move. I think Mikey nearly became a man watching this thing.
I mean, I'm still missing the voice department, so puberty hasn't fully finished itself with me yet.
This match was everything we expected, but what I felt was different was the time they were given, because we've always kind of known that Miro is this talented, and we talked about this when we did our predictions yesterday. Is Miro going to get the win? He has to get the win, because now with Punk not being on Collision, he could be that star for Collision. He's always had that star quality. The guy rode to the ring in a tank. The $1 billion company had, they backed him up. And for some reason or another, he's just like fallen lower and lower. This was a great showcase for him. And Powerhouse Hobbs, whether people knew it or not, CM Punk has been calling that man out since like one of his first promos. He's like, send me Hobbs, send me Stark, send me Hook. Like, he's been talking about Hobbs for a while.
Sign of respect, which I had to put in there. It's the Predator one. Like, Dylan, you son of a bitch. The big guy.
Yeah.
Very special for everyone because it's a very special day for him. It was Rusev Day.
Yeah, absolutely.
This was a good showing for Hobbs too, because I feel like he doesn't get a lot of credit that he deserves. I want to thank the wrestling gods for getting him away from QTV as fast as they possibly could, because the Lord have mercy, I did not want them being out here for this match. Hobbs on his own is great. The story thread here wasn't necessarily the strongest because, Miro is the Redeemer, and then Hobbs, currently, his character is the Book of Hobbs kind of thing. The crowd also enhanced this match for me. Is probably why I also really enjoyed this match.
I feel like these two going at it, too, with that kind of almost religious aspect to both sides, you could end them up as a big manly meat tag team somewhere. And
that's what I said.
Oh, wow, yeah. I thought they were pretty evenly matched. I thought this was a pretty fair fight.
Yeah.
And this was probably one of my favorite matches of this whole event.
Reminded me of Neidhart versus Bulldog, like just the two of them going at each other in the early 80s and like early 90s, like just big, got two guys on cocaine and steroids going nuts.
Yep, just going to town.
Yeah.
But I also love the fact that this match did not end with the bell. I love that it carried on. I love all of the post-match chaos that ensued.
Post-match, so Miro, deservedly so, and needed this win, does pick up the victory. Him and Hobbs are kind of staring at each other, but Miro's like, bro, let's shake hands here, and they do.
Dylan, you son of a bitch.
Exactly. I would kind of like it if Hobbs just leaves, but no, that's not what happens. So Miro goes to leave. Hobbs attacks Miro from behind. Then the weirdest choice of adjectives pop up on the Titantron at the entrance ramp.
It fits.
Listen, we know.
Due to the promo, it fits.
We know. Coming out is little Miss CJ over here, who, if those of you who don't know, is Miro's actual real-life wife. So CJ gets in the ring, tries her best to hit Hobbs. It doesn't work. Hobbs has a chair. Then, the distraction is enough for Miro to get the chair and then hit Hobbs with said chair. Then he goes randomly to a corner to address the crowd, returns to DJ, and then utters, "You're not real," and then proceeds to walk off onto the stage.
Why the chair shot to the head though? I didn't understand. Like, where's the gut shot? Like, okay, you hit him in the back, hit him in the gut, and then hit him again in the back. Like, there you go. You have 3 solid shots without possibly injuring him. We don't need that anymore.
I'm wondering this as a stage combatant and somebody else, that they always go for the back and the gut, and especially WWE. But why aren't we like chop blocking their knees out? Like take them, like sweep them with the
That's
chair.
what I was
No.
wondering.
Especially a big guy like this, and have him sell the knee. Like you
Take
they don't
him
need to hit
down
them.
from the knees. Yeah, there's just it's the chair, and it has its stereotypical hits, and that's the ones they always go with. And it's like, but you can use that chair so many different ways. Take him out from the knees. You can do, you can open it, put it over the head, clap it onto the thing. I mean, you could do all kinds of things with it.
Throw the chair and Machka kick him with it.
Yeah, that would have been
Oh
great.
my gosh, that would have been great.
That would have been.
Like-
This was a weird ending. I mean, it was.
I actually liked it.
I like.
I loved
liked
it. I loved
liked
it.
I have
no,
questions.
But I liked it knowing what Miro had set up years down the road. This was good long term because people
Yeah.
have been calling for CJ Perry to show up forever, and she hasn't. And you don't just pair them up. And the fact that she's not real could be because he doesn't believe she's here. It could be anything to do with his whole thing of like getting rid of his former life. But she's not signed to AEW. It was a one-time thing to pop the crowd. Yes, set it up that way. This is not going to put them together. And so she can continue to show up in random places and throw him off now because she's upset. And he gets to play up the fact that, like, where do my loyalties lie? Is this going to take away from me being able to fight other people because I have to be on the guard of this apparition of this beautiful woman who's constantly following me around? That's why I like this ending.
Yep.
That's why this ending worked. It's not setting up a marriage thing. It's not setting up a relationship thing. This is playing off. Is she a figment of his imagination?
Right.
Is she really the woman she thinks he is? Or has he gone completely off the deep end and she's trying to bring him back from where he is?
When he takes that chair away from her and the looks that they were giving each other, it was a look of like admiration.
This next match for the TBS Championship, challenger Ruby Soho versus the champion Chris Statlander. I love the O to her gear. This match hurt me because this match on paper and just watching it was really, really great. It's just the placement of it didn't help because the crowd was so behind Hobbs and Miro's match and just how invested they were. We're on the downward trend of this. Chris Statlander, homage to previous gear, was awesome.
But also to Derek Zoolander.
The placement of this match really hurts, and I was like, why is it that the women's matches always get screwed over when it comes to placement? They did it last week at All In, and now they did it again to your TBS champion and the challenger and All Out. I also had a problem with Saraya running away like she's scared. I was like, no, this is not how you treat women's champions like that.
You can do chicken shit a couple ways, and I think that this one was... She was ineffectual in it as opposed to like goading someone in that way. Like you can do the running spot, but they know what they're doing. Whereas this felt like she just was lost and didn't want to be there. And if you're the AEW Women's Champion, you shouldn't be afraid of Statlander. You shouldn't be afraid of anybody. You're booking her so weak in that to set it up for failure when you brought the Women's Champion down. This is the best person to have in your corner.
Commentary, this is where I have beef with you. You were saying some sideways ass shit the whole entire night. But this match in particular, I'm like, boys, we need to rein it in a little bit because now we're getting close to being sexist and body shaming for Statlander. And
I don't know. I like me a thick woman, but listen, getting back to this.
Nothing
Yeah.
wrong with it, but the way JR was saying it was like he was also off on a tangent, like, oh, she grew up on a farm. She's a farm girl. Farms are things. It's like, Grandpa, what are you talking about? Like, what's going on here?
somebody come get
The
this
linebacker
man.
thing I can see on certain things, but just JR. Scale it back. You don't need to be on everything. We know you're here.
Yeah, it was weird because I felt like this match was technically sound. Like I really like Ruby. I think she's one of the most talented women on the roster. I fear that she's forever going to be like that Dolph Ziggler type. Like she might eventually win a title, but I don't think she'll ever get the full backing of the company. And it is clear that that's what the intention is here. She's always going to be used in this spot where we're always going to highlight the fact that she can't win the big one. And I think there is somebody producing in the back or writing that's hoping that the fans jump behind her and they're like, we've had enough of this shit. But for some reason, she's just outshined by Saraya and Toni, because I know a lot of people didn't like the Toni Storm part of the match. I loved it. I thought it was perfect, because right now Toni is setting herself apart from the rest of the crop. Toni Storm left WWE because she couldn't find her character. She couldn't advance. I felt like she's always been missing that thing, and now she's got it. And right now, I'm more excited about what Toni Storm's doing than Saraya actually being champion. I love Chris's finisher, and I love the way they worked, but I do agree with you, though, that the placement of the match was terrible. Like, if you're only going to have one women's match, then if there's only one, then open the show with it. Because opening match is just as important as closing match. Because then you give the women their time to shine. Especially after, can you imagine the crowd? Right after the Acclaimed, we start the pay-per-view. We got the women out there. Everybody's going to be hot right away. I really hate the way Tony Khan books women.
Books them terrible in AEW. You look at ROH, and he's booking them there, and they're great.
But is he booking them, or does he have like his own Shawn Michaels, where somebody else is doing the booking down there, and they just have to run things by him?
To be fair, I think Tony Khan oversees it, but I think it's the trio of Maria Kanellis, Stokely Hathaway, and Jerry Lynn. I think those three are booking the shows, and that's why Ring of Honor's women's division is probably being booked better than the AEW women's division.
Absolutely it is. Absolutely it is.
But on top of that, there have been reports that pressure from WB to only have one match as well, so you're getting that crap from their overlords that are setting them up for Dynamite and everything else. Like, we don't want more than one women's match on our TV. Because David Zaslav is a child-eating reptile, allegedly. They don't see it as marketable. He's in that same mindset that Vince McMahon is, of people don't want to watch women wrestle.
My question is, so AEW tries a lot to copy other companies. You could tell that they're doing a lot of things that have been done before. They're recycling a lot of storylines and stuff like that. Why isn't Tony Khan trying to find his Becky Lynch? How could he possibly allow TBS or whatever to tell him, like, women aren't marketable?
He literally had her in Jamie Hayter, and she got hurt because they were booking 2 to 3 women's matches a week going into that when she was the actual champion after she got it off Toni Storm. And the minute she got injured, everything got pulled back because apparently they had put so much behind her, and then she's fragile, which she's not. She had a legitimate injury, and she's still out because of it. There was gun shyness, and I think also they're up for their TV contracts this year, so they're trying to like snuggle up good next to David Zaslav's giant balls up inside his taint. It seems like they went for it and then pulled back too quickly because they had no one else there. Everyone's getting injured. The hope is that, again, we get through this period, they get their contracts, and there's a breath, and then they start to move on from it.
The thing is, like, we've seen what the women mean to AEW. If you go back right now, the best feud in AEW's short history is Britt versus Thunder. That was match of the year, right? That's what everybody said. And you're telling me that these two women went out there in a hardcore style match and they stole the entire year. How can you not say that they're not marketable? And it's 2023, for fuck's sake. We need to be very clear with this. Women are just as important as the men. I say this all the time whenever I make videos on TikTok about women's wrestling. I don't look at women's wrestling as women's wrestling the way you're supposed to. Like, I lump them all in. In my opinion, I look at them just like I look at the men. There's enhancement talent, there's mid-carders, and there's main eventers. They need their own show. Tony Khan has so many hours. Give the women their own show. WWE needs to do the same thing. It's funny that you say that about the companies, though, because I have not been able to figure out how Triple H booked all those women as exceptional as he did in NXT to get the shit show that we get now on Raw and SmackDown. We're watching Ring of Honor pull like the NXT and rise these women to the top, and then it's like, okay. Like, at this point, the Ring of Honor Women's Championship means more than the AEW Women's Championship.
You're also right in the comparison because you look at how NXT got away with it at that point. That was an exclusive to the WWE Network when he was doing that. Same thing with Ring of Honor. They're on their own thing that's not on TV. The minute anybody from a higher up in the age bracket of Vince McMahon, Endeavor, David Zaslav, and all those crappy producers in Hollywood look at this and say, we're not going to market this. We want women to be sexy so that people will tune in because they don't trust the audience to be smart. It's where it goes. It goes to die. They have to fight uphill to get there. And Tony Khan, for all of his billions of dollars he's got, he's not going to fight that because he knows he needs a partner to put this on TV. The same thing happens with what they were doing with USA and all that. So the minute NXT went on to USA, that women's division got cranked all the way back down because now everyone in power is paying attention versus what they had. I go back to the Evolution pay-per-view. Yes, we joked that Stephanie McMahon invented women's wrestling. Didn't happen that way. But the fact they were given that and no follow-up, AEW, you've got a freaking ball that's been dropped. Do a women's pay-per-view. If you like, especially in this entire thing, you had 2 back-to-back pay-per-views. You want to do 2 pay-per-views a month within a week? Do your big spectacle show. Do your women's show.
Unlike the restraints that WWE has, is like you always bring talent from the independent scenes, and you have worked with New Japan. You guys have worked with Impact Wrestling. Like, AEW is in a position where they're not constrained to be like, no, we can't work with outside companies or smaller promotions. You mean to tell me you have your Ring of Honor women's roster, AEW's women's roster, you have the plethora, look at the New Japan Strong women's division. If you want to do something, Stardom.
Pull Stardom.
Get Julia and Momo Watanabe over here. In Impact, pull Deanna, pull Jordan Grace. Awesome Kong and Gail Kim are about to have a reunited match at the 1000th episode of Impact
That's
soon.
the key. That's the key right there is Gail Kim. The reason that's the key is what you just said there was how they have an opportunity to pick up this ball that's been dropped. They just booked the biggest show that in London since the 92 SummerSlam, right? That was something they did. And you could tell that the focus, maybe behind the scenes, it was like WWE can't do this. They can't bring the show over here. All right, well, WWE refuses to do a women's pay-per-view. Guess who's the #1 hater in WWE? Gail Kim. Hey, come over here, help us book a women's pay-per-view. Help us beat that company. She would absolutely do that.
Literally take her and Maria Kanellis, who was booking our
Yes.
before they got taken on, and have them come on screen and go, Tony, you've lost it here. You're not doing this. We're having a walkout. And all of the women go and do this pay-per-view, and they bring it, and it's the celebration of women's wrestling, and then have fallout from that start to sprinkle in other places, because the 2 of them have become the godmothers of women's wrestling in the world at this point.
So,
Absolutely.
you know, I get so much shit from the guys out of love for this, but that's why the Knockouts division in Impact is thriving so much, is because Gail Kim
And it always has.
Yes, Gail Kim is in charge of that women's division.
I don't know if you guys listen to the 83 Weeks podcast with Eric Bischoff. Every now and then he talks about why he decided to do 3 hours of Nitro and how he was able to break up the show. And the reason I bring this up now is because wrestling is not the same as back then. So he talked about how he would book the first hour of Nitro was to develop the story for the last hour of the show. The second hour was where we got our cruiserweight action, which got the crowd invested. And then the third hour, he would close it up with the stories that he gave us in the first hour. So if Tony Khan decided, hey, give me that third hour on Wednesday, let's just say that that's what we get. The first hour could be booking the main event scene, could be booking the 10 to 11 hour. The second hour could be dedicated to the women. You know why? Because we don't have cruiserweight wrestling anymore. They're mixed and matched with the heavyweights. So we don't need to highlight cruiserweights. We can highlight the fucking women.
You've seen my TK accountability corner. Like, we're both right there at that.
We always call out the bullshit when the women aren't being treated correctly.
Even if we didn't do that, if you didn't want to give them a third hour because they won't do that, take Rampage. You have an hour sitting on Friday that does nothing for you. It's Dynamite Light. Make that the women's show. Or make one match be the men's match in the middle of that friggin' show and give us all the rest around it being women's matches.
Absolutely.
You have the programming already.
AEW having potentially the best wrestlers in the world, right? And he talks about this stuff, and I think to myself, like, yeah, I love Charlotte Flair. I love Becky Lynch. I love Trish Stratus and all the people that hated on her, and she said, you know what, here, up yours. AEW's got some really talented women. I think what's really hurt is that they put too much invested in Britt Baker, and she's not clean enough in the ring. But if they put a lot behind, like you said, Jamie Hayter, Tony Storm, if they put behind Chris, behind Ruby, if those are the people that are being highlighted, then the average wrestling fan is going to be like, holy shit, these women are awesome, man. Like, what is going on right now?
You can literally bring in Gail and Maria as like when you did the Invasion, the 2 of them together going, we're going to go head to head. Who's got the better women's division? And they do a pay-per-view where the story of it is they're literally going as a tournament to see who can win what, and by the end of it, it's defined it or it's tied up, whatever it needs to be. They're the figureheads. They don't even have to wrestle.
I agree.
We had time to go off on this because this is important, especially over here at the Biconics. We love our women's wrestlers, and not just Tony Khan, but in all of the promotions. We're tired of the lipstick service, as we have coined the phrase here. How you believe in the women, but then what you show on my television screen or the pay-per-views is not what you say. So shame on you.
Can I just say one more thing about this?
Do it.
I really, really hate the comparison to the WNBA. I hate the fact that people are just like, oh, well, if you look at the WNBA, the reason they don't make money is because they don't sell out arenas. Guys, this is not the same thing. Becky Lynch fucking main evented WrestleMania. Charlotte Flair is the #1 name in women's wrestling.
Jamie Hayter was the #1 merch seller when she was the damn title.
Exactly.
Like,
that's what I mean. Like, this is not the WNBA. They're going head to head with men. Sometimes they have better matches. Night 1 of WrestleMania this year, the best match of the night was Charlotte Flair versus Rhea Ripley. Possibly the best female in-ring competitor in the business is Rhea Ripley. She's all over Monday Night Raw. You have that. I think that Jamie's just as good. I actually think Tony's better than Rhea Ripley, but for some reason, she just doesn't have the character that Rhea has. And they just don't use these people. They're at your disposal, man. Use them. And now we're going to get CJ Perry in another valet role. And it's just like, come on, man.
Nyla Rose put her through a table. That'd be funny.
Exactly.
It'd be like Nia Jax all over again.
That's the thing. You talk about Nyla Rose too, man. What a progressive thing. Like, you have a transgender person out there wrestling with all these other women, putting them over, you know, being the champ, everything she did. I felt like they did so much work in the first year, and then they just let it all go away. I truly don't understand what happened, and I'm glad you brought up the TBS thing, because Eric Bischoff talks about that a lot. The downfall of WCW didn't start when he started voicing the spoilers from Monday Night Raw. It started when they started getting their hands in the cookie jar, telling them like, hey, we need to dial it back, go a little bit more PG. And he's like, but we got here with this rated NC-17 stuff.
The Turner Broadcasting Company is trying to ruin wrestling again. And it's because they're balancing their books on the side, as you see what he's doing with Max. And we're all upset. We want this to change. And honestly, we have to work harder to get all of you to be loud as well. Because anyone out there watching this, please start talking this up, bring it up, go back and watch these amazing matches, and have a conversation with us. Get it in the algorithm. That's what we need.
Chris retains the title. Ruby once again gets shafted. Toni Storm almost had a wardrobe malfunction when she was coming out from under the ring, but thankfully that coat kind of helped, saved it a little bit. The next one after this, the strap match between Ricky and Bryan Danielson.
He hit him with the belt loops, and then they cut away, and Bryan gigged himself. But he went full Guerrero on this one. Like, he was everywhere.
Oh my
god. I haven't seen Bryan Blade in a while, so it was
Listen,
awesome.
those leather straps were going across faces.
And the ears, I was like, oh.
Yeah, gosh.
When he's in the Trio Woe stance and Bryan hits him, you could tell Ricky was like, oh shit. Like, he hit him right in the ear.
Popped my ear, yeah. There was also the slap spot when they're standing and Bryan's going after him too. And he's getting him right up around here. But it's going up the ear as well. So
I thought this was really interesting because Ricky Starks led this entire match. Ricky took a lot of punishment. Obviously, Bryan loves his punishment. If you go back to when he came back from injury in the greatest Royal Rumble ever, he had Roderick Strong chop him so much he put all of the blood vessels in his chest. I thought this match was exceptional. I could see why a lot of people didn't, though.
Some of the other people in our chat, it was very traumatizing. There was definitely, I can understand that for some people seeing that. I joked that there was PTSD trauma for Justin Roberts sitting ringside watching.
Yeah, I thought that was a great comment. Yeah.
You know, we also bring the fact that Bryan's last strap match was against Bray Wyatt, and it was just as brutal as this one, but less blood. There was a lot of smart spots with it where we're going to get the most damage out of all this and make it look terrible, but we're also functional. And Ricky calling that makes me even happier because that's a younger wrestler knowing how far to go and having a trusting person who wasn't 100%, and they didn't do as much high-impact stuff to destroy that. They worked this as a fight.
I'm so glad you brought up the arm because Bryan talks about that in the scrum. He said, if you watch this match back, I never throw a single strike with my right arm. He said, and I don't think anybody noticed it in the match. And I was just like, you know what? Damn it, I don't think he did, which is crazy. For me, the worst spot of this match was when he wrapped the strap around Ricky's neck and then pulled him. He was still in the Trio Woe stance, but he's like hanging. And I was like, whoa, that's a little too far.
And you see Ricky, who's losing air, but he has one leg still cocked and trying to hold himself up to finish the spot.
Roddy Piper said it best on Bill Maher. Wrestling might be scripted, but it is not fake. These guys were beating the shit out of each other.
Didn't need Big Bill coming in to do a dusty finish on this one because Bill just didn't need to be there, other than to set up Ricky the Dragon Steamboat to chop the hell out of him, which was just fun to watch him do.
Oh my God, Ricky, please don't ever commentate again.
No, the pauses in between. He thinks too much. Nigel and Excalibur were not setting him up with good questions.
No.
They were trying to lead him down a path, but they were used to somebody else who's quick on the draw. Whereas I think with this, you needed to like literally feed him the line he needed to go into because he just doesn't do it fast enough.
What I will say about this match, I don't know if it's a controversial statement or maybe it's a hyperbolic statement. We're going to look back at this match and this is going to be Ricky Stark's WrestleMania 13 moment because he found the hard camp. He looked right at it. The way he like really held his breath and pushed it out, because Brian wasn't really choking him. People need to realize he wasn't really choking him in that spot. He got blue and he passed out. It was such a great spot, and I really feel like for years to come, we're going to be looking at this as that was the star-making match for Ricky Starks.
Ricky and Jay and Miro are your three men, in my opinion, that need to be constantly on Collision now that there is a void left from Mr. CM Punketh himself. Luis, you mentioned that you had to take your shirt off for the strap match. This was I gotta take my shirt off because I will unapologetically stand wrestlers as wrestling can. Eddie Kingston and the legend that is Katsuyori Shibata taking on Blackpool Combat Club, which is the combination this time of Wheeler Yuta and Claudio Castagnoli.
Eddie's got that hangdog look of like, I just want to have fun here, guys. Why won't anyone let me have fun?
Yeah, absolutely.
Shibata's insane. Shibata is just like oh my.
Okay.
Double submission spot where he's got him in the he's got him tied up in the Indian Deathlock, and then he puts him in the ankle lock.
Listen,
like, oh,
he's been back from injury for a while, but yesterday was the first day that I felt like this is pre-injury Shibata.
He took a lot of that brunt stuff, and again, I get squeamish watching him because I'm like, I know the brain injury he had, and the fact that he's back doing it, but he is just that quiet intensity that you want. They called on commentary when he checked in to make sure the guy didn't move before he did the basement dropkick. It was him really making sure, like, I'm not going to kill you when I do this. Worked well. I loved Claudio working the whole thing of, like, I'm not going to even look at you. I don't respect you. I loved, Eddie taking his entire rage out on Yuta and beating the living crap out of him, which was so much fun. I'm on the fence about the ending. While it seemed quick and there was something wrong with it, at the same time, it really sets up Claudio doesn't respect him enough to do the Rico the Bomb and pull it off. I'm going to hit you with the hardest uppercut I've got when you're not looking, when you're not ready for it, and you're not good enough to even get my finisher. I'm just going to do it to you.
If this is setting up Claudio versus Eddie round 2 like we were supposed to get before Eddie had to go get surgery on the giblets, as LA Knight likes to call them, I'm okay with the way it ended, but I'm kind of here for Pro putting on hands on Wheeler, because that's...
I love the European uppercut ending only because we've had possibly like the past 10 years of wrestling showing us that he has the best European uppercuts.
Claudio thinks so little of him. He's like, no, I'm not going to waste my best moves on you. I'm going to hit you with the hardest thing I've got in my arsenal.
And at this point, I was like, this probably could be my match of the night. And I was going back and forth between this and Miro and Hobbs. Then I had a third match that was like, I don't know what to pick. In the singles match, you have Konosuke Takeshita taking on Kenny Omega. Spoiler alert, Takeshita wins cleanly, might I add.
I love it.
Like with the knees too.
With
It wasn't
the
any
knees.
other spectacular move. It's just beating the crap out of him. The second move of the match, he's like, well, let's see. Will Ospreay, you think you can kill Kenny Omega? I can do that better on a more simpler move. Here's a giant high angle back suplex.
God,
his head.
when Kenny landed on his head, and then for like the next 5 or 7 minutes or so, Kenny was on autopilot. I was like, stop the match. Somebody check on this man.
Glazed. It
Like,
was an angle moment where he was fully glazed over.
God.
And it's Angle King of the Ring. Like, Kenny,
Stop.
we talked about Darby doing this stuff. You
Stop.
just took almost a year and a half off to recover from years of this stuff. Stop that.
So first I want to say something. I really think that this comparison needs to be made.
Yeah.
Takeshita is the baby of Mike Awesome and Masato Tanaka. He is literally both of them put together.
Yes.
Jim Cornette can kiss my ass. There was no leg slapping in those forearms. You can
No.
see his left hand. When he hit Kenny, it was forearm hitting his neck. It was beautiful, flush.
Down, you see the ear and the skin moving each time it happens too, and the hair obviously goes. but it is
Absolutely. I've never really invested time into Takeshita. That was like my real full experience with him. I feel like Kenny Omega has had his Trish Stratus moment where it's like people were questioning if he still got it. I also feel like this match right here, I love the fact that we have that you can't beat me story because it reminds me of the Okada Omega thing. Omega couldn't beat Okada. He couldn't do it until he did. And that's what is going to be so beautiful. It's like, not to jump over to the other company, but did you guys know that Drew McIntyre has literally never beat Roman Reigns?
Yep. Yeah,
Never beat him. So when he beats him, you know it's going to be monumental. And that's exactly what they're doing here. I want Takeshita to win the next couple too. This one was perfect because it was smack dab in the middle. He beat him clean. So the next time when Kenny's just about to win, have him cheat to win. But I'm all for gore. I don't like that screwdriver spot.
No,
that
okay.
That could have gone so wrong.
So the strap match violence, I was like hugging the pillow, but like this is entertaining. How vicious that Don Callis came down with that screwdriver, and obviously it wasn't really going to get anywhere close, but the intention, and I can feel the hate and the malice coming from it, and just the way that it stuck through. That is a shot. There was just something very eerie about just that it's sticking there in the like foreground.
The force that he hit that through, that was not Bam Bam and Taz falling through the ring.
No.
He put that shit through plywood. That's what under the thing, like under the actual mat of wrestling
At least he put it into the plywood because he got
yes,
through the
it's stuck in there. Let's talk about the story about the fact that referees are preconditioned to look for John Callis cheating. Because they're like, oh, no, we know, Takeshita, I know you got something. And he just grabs it out of his hands. Like, I thought that was such a great story, too, where it's like, we know that they're going to cheat to win.
At that point, I also thought, are they going to make Takeshita kick out of the One-Winged Angel? Because if he hits them,
I would have actually been upset. One-Winged Angel is one of the few finishers left that is still sacred.
Would you agree, though, that if he kicked out and then he won the match the way he did, there would be an exception to the rule?
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
Absolutely.
That's where you do it.
Yes, when he wins. Because if he would have kicked out and then he gets a second One-Winged Angel and then he beats him, it's like, well, you just wasted that finisher. But if he kicks out, it's like, oh, man, does he need to go into his bag to beat this guy? Hit a One-Winged Angel, the waterfall one that he tried to hit, which I really wanted to see. I just want to see how they would work that out.
This was what you needed to follow up the Ospreay match with Kenny Omega. This is the right person to do at the time. You've got the history with it, too. I want to see more of this, and I want to see where Takeshita beating him over and over just drives Kenny farther and farther down into his depression to force Kenny to bring back the cleaner.
Yeah.
Yes, Cleaner Kenny was Cleaner Kenny
down.
was a menace, and I'm here for it.
Go clean up that Terminator gear. Let's go.
And I love that Takeshita won cleanly here. Takeshita, I feel like, has paid his dues since initially he was just here on his excursion like most Japanese wrestlers do from their companies to get sent over, whether it be to improve, to learn different styles and things like that. And then for him to decide, you know what, I'm going to stay here and sign to AEW.
You know what's great about this is the fact that this fan base is going to appreciate him. If this would happen in the other company, it'd be like, whatever. But no, because of the way the fans watch AEW and what they like, he's going to be the perfect person. I wouldn't be surprised if he's in the title picture in the future, if they're like, you know what, this is kind of homegrown talent.
So the semi-main event is your 8-man tag. So you have the Bullet Club
That's
Gold
on earlier in the night,
which consists of Switchblade Jay White, I should say, the Honeycomb Monster, Rock Hard Juice Robinson, the Ass Boys, the Bang Bang Gang as what they're called, taking on again the weirdly put together FTR and the Young Bucks. I agree, this actually should have been earlier in the first half of the card, if not open the show. This match was chaotic, more so than what I'm used to, and normally I like my chaos in matches, but I felt like the camera people did not help this match in the chaos, because I was like, we're missing things. Everything just feels so disorganized. I was underwhelmed with what I saw. Jay White fucking carried Bang Bang Gang and FTR and Young Bucks in that match.
This was a spot fest for me. I did not enjoy this match. Even in my notes, I was like, this is just a spot fest.
I was
took me out of
joking
it
the whole time on the text string. That's how much I wasn't invested. My line of the night for this one was, ooh, yeah, Cash knows how to work a gun against civilians.
Jay carried that whole match for everybody, not just for him personally. But that speaks volumes to Jay's in-ring experience and how good he is as a wrestler. This is the other thing I hated. If you're gonna do other moves that are not in your arsenal, like the trigger, or that the Young Bucks do.
FTR trigger. Nick Jackson on the Shadow Machine was actually really good. He actually pulled that off better than
But that's
FTR.
what I'm saying.
Pertaining to the story, do you think that because FTR and Young Bucks aren't supposed to be a team that meshes well together, that this match was designed to be organized chaos?
No.
Or do you think it just happened?
No, because I've seen them be on the same side before with that same through line, and they've done better than what we saw last night.
They were worried about the Bucks coming out and getting
Oh
booed.
my God. They
weren't.
said that during commentary. Like, they broke that wall. They were like, yeah, they're a little bit too concerned with the crowd out here and what they're saying than being... And I don't know if that was a work. It might have worked me, but it really felt like it was a shot from Nigel to, tell these guys, get your shit together.
I wonder if this went on earlier in the night, whether that would have been as chaotic.
Main event time. The AEW International.
My match of the night, by the way.
100%.
Storytelling, this was my match of the night. I still pick Shibata and Kingston just from the bias standpoint, but Lord have mercy. give Orange Cassidy his fucking flowers at this point. Like, Jesus Christ.
Actually, Payback and this show really felt like it was wrestlers reminding people. It started with Trish Stratus, where she was like, "Oh, you don't think I'm good? All right, here.
Let me get a knot on my forehead." Like,
yeah,
Jesus
like,
Christ.
you know, here's your sign. And then it felt like, oh, Kenny Omega, oh, you think I'm overrated? You think that the company shouldn't have pushed me the way they did? Okay, here's this match. I felt like this match was a way to show the world, I'm Jon Moxley, and yeah, I do these hardcore matches, but I'm still one of the best wrestlers in the world. This was the best video package of the night. The way they put each other over was absolutely phenomenal. It was Orange Cassidy saying Jon Moxley kept this company up when it was down, and it was Jon Moxley saying everybody calls him a wrestler playing cosplay and says he's not the real deal. He looks like the real deal to me. I thought, well, here you go. There's your endorsement from both of these superstars. Right? Let's go out there. Let's just show the world everything. And I'm going to continue to say this until somebody convinces me otherwise. AEW All Out was all about making the next crop of stars.
Yes, I'm sorry. Goofy wrestling for life. There still was goofy wrestling here, but it showed his involvement and, as I joked about, his ripening as a performer.
Seriously.
Where he goes from it, he got angry, and he went from the super kicks to the full-on kick to his ass.
That was so beautiful.
Goofy wrestling's been a part of wrestling. We have the five-knuckle shuffle. We have the people's elbow. Goofy wrestling's a part of wrestling.
Cassidy also, I know he's older in terms of wrestling thing. Like, he's getting into his 40s, and so he's on that trajectory. Like, this is probably his last chance to kind of make that run. But he proved here also that he knows where his place is in a match like that. He's not going to like just, I mean, the Hulk up spot was awesome where he popped back up from stuff, but he doesn't do that often, doesn't lose the thread, which you see wrestlers do sometimes when they get lost or anything else. He holds on to that one totem of his character and what he does, and he does it so well. And I'm popped by it because he can fight anybody in any way and make it work.
But just when you thought the match couldn't get any better, right before the finish, he slowly gets himself up, he gives him the fingers, he takes the paradigm shift, and that's the end of the match. And you think to yourself, what a great finish of the match. It's almost like, yeah, it took you all that. You had to beat the shit out of me for almost 40 minutes, and you just now got me down. Orange Cassidy was already there. Nigel says it during the match. I don't know if you guys caught it. He said that the International Championship is quite possibly the most important title in AEW. And I thought to myself, I want MJF to address that on TV. That's a great story. And then, boom, that's when you have Orange Cassidy introduced. So maybe that's the intention.
Cassidy needs some time off and be like something around, hanging out. His next shot is to go for that thing or go for the TBS title at this point. Like, can he bring the prestige to the TBS title? He did the international title.
I would actually like some subtle hinting. Like, I would like Cassidy to stay away for a little bit. MJF, he breaks Kenny Omega's record. He does his thing, and just when MJF is celebrating, then you just have like just a random person come down to the ring and just put like a basket of oranges in the middle of the ring and then just leave. It's like, oh, are we going to get Danhausen versus MJF? No, I'm here to deliver a message for you. That little symbol will pop the shit out of that crowd.
Put some sunglasses on one of them, be like, draw it on.
You can have video packages out the wazoo of, you know, MJF's been saying in the ring, like once he realizes who this is, he's not on my level. It's not going to happen. You have Jericho come out. You have Moxley come out. You have all these big names that he's beaten in those weird matches.
Kenny and Pac. Listen, that Pac Kenny triple threat at Double or Nothing like 2 years ago is still one of my favorite AEW main event matches.
Yeah.
My Booker hat here is you get all those video packages, you have all these people, Pac, everyone else say it, and if you can get them to do this, the title match happens, and all of them are like the pillars that they come out and they watch Cassidy do his entrance. We're sick of you, MJF, you're a shitty champion.
Yeah.
Here's who's going to fucking beat you.
I would book this so much more. I would make this personal. I would have us wake up in the morning with MJF. A day in the life of MJF, he opens his refrigerator and it's nothing but orange juice.
Orange juice!
If Orange Cassidy becomes the fighting champion that he was with the International Championship, I feel like it'd be the top title in the world.
He's worked every style.
Absolutely. It's amazing to watch something like that.
I don't think there's another wrestler who could have pulled that off the same way and still been a babyface. You had to have a heel do that. And this is amazing as a babyface.
Because I was just about to make the comparison that there's only been one other wrestler that's gone through his life working every single style, and that's Shawn Michaels. But you said that the major point. He did this all as a babyface. Shawn has done this, but he's had the flip-flop between heel and face. Cassidy was able to make being a good guy cool again, which is has not been a thing since 1996. That's the last time when we actually loved baby faces.
As much as people crap on John Cena for a lot of things, the U.S. Open Challenge, he took that to another level because he was the fighting champion. Didn't have to say open. I'm just going to do it with anyone that's out there, and I'll have scheduled matches. I don't need to sit there on daily TV and like showcase that I have to keep, I'm a fighting champion. You know it, and you see it, and you see the wear and tear on him, and that's much more hardcore than like, oh, well, I'm just going to be that guy that's going to come out and say whoever wants to and book the flavor of the week. No, I've got rivalries in this. I had storylines in this. I had four-ways in this, a battle royal in this. There's a reason why this title is a head and shoulders above the AEW heavyweight title right now.
Absolutely. This reminds me of like the early 90s, how the WWE Championship or the WWF Championship was kind of like on guys like Kevin Nash or Bob Backlund or Hogan, or even when Flair had it in 92. That wasn't a great title run. People think it was, but it wasn't. But the Intercontinental Championship mattered. We cared about those feuds. Jarrett, Michaels, Razor, Goldust, Ahmed Johnson, all great feuds for the title. Brett, perfect, mattered. That's what this was. But did you hear that though? That was all different combinations. This was one man doing it with all different competitors. That's what's so special. This is one of the greatest title reigns we've ever seen.
This pay-per-view fucking ruled. And I agree, Luis, with you when you said it. All Out was definitely better than All In for me. Like, honestly, I agree with both of you. This was the showcase of here is what's to come for the rest of this year and, for years to come for AEW, because lots of stars the momentum is starting to be there from the likes of Orange, Ricky, Miro, and Hobbs. I had so much fun watching this.
Yeah, I absolutely agree with you. There's one negative I took away. 2 weeks in a row, we get All In, All Out. Last week was like, okay, here's some of the past wrestling, some of the present. Here's some old matches like Punk and Joe. This week, we get the Futures matches. Where the fuck was Sammy Guevara? Why was he not on either? Honestly, and I know a lot of people said that AEW All Access was a work. No, Britt Baker's really not that terrible of a person. No, Sammy Guevara's not really that good of a person. Here's what I will say. One of Sammy's gripes on that show that he said every week was that he's never utilized correctly. That he's always thrown in these multiple man matches. This kid is never going to get better if you don't put him in spotlights.
There's one other thing he said in that, because I also watched All Access, which I was surprised about. He said, I've been going awesome. I've been moving up the card for weeks and weeks and weeks, and then all of a sudden they cut the rug out from under me and stick me at Jericho's side. Like, I was doing great. I was drawing, and then you tell me I've got to go in to do this. It's like, and then all of a sudden I have to go to work from the bottom again.
Yeah, I don't understand the purpose of, I forgot who said it. It was Ricky Starks that actually says that he hates the pillar thing. And I agreed with him. I hated it, honestly, because I felt like the people they picked were not the pillars of the company. I do look at Sammy Guevara as part of the future. Getting back to this, I really thought this show was excellent. I thought it was a great show, especially for the fact that we didn't have CM Punk. It was in Chicago. We didn't have Chris Jericho. That was another big thing. We stuck to what got us here, which was wrestling. I don't think we needed the Ring of Honor tag titles match. We could have given that to a women's match. You could have given Saraya a quick 7-minute match if you're trying to protect her neck by not having her work a lot. That's why you're putting her in multiple person tags. If you're going to have so much Ring of Honor, why not have the Ring of Honor women's champion on the show? What are you afraid she's going to steal the show? I thought this show was exceptional. I would give this 6 empanadas. That's
out of 5. Yes. Yeah, oh, by the way, JVL, that's the scale we're adopting now.
Picked that up on that. Love this, and it was the Futures for everything else. It engrossed me more than All In did. It kept my attention a lot more than it did. I agree. I felt that this respected me more than All In did.
Yes.
It respected me as a
Thank you.
fan. I would give this an 8.5 out of 10 minis. But because we had one women's match, it goes down to a 6.5.
Damn!
Oh wow! I like that. I like that you're standing past that. I like that.
I still love that. I still love this show. They could have done better.
Tony Khan's bullshit excuse of we ran out of time. We do this. Listen, my guy, you just gave us 12 hours of wrestling in 2 pay-per-view shows, and you gave us 2 women's matches. One was 11 minutes, one was 7 minutes. That's bullshit.
Ridiculous.
I also will go back to your point there. This was the future, and the future's holding. I am excited to see where these future people that have been showcased and the people that had been driving that earlier before they got injured start to clash. Earlier in the year that we're showcasing the future, and now we've got more people built up. let them play.
Gentlemen, this was a really fun review. This was great. Beautiful thing about being a wrestling fan is we have our gripes, but man, when the companies get it right, they get it right. This was a phenomenal,
Absolutely.
not just All Out, but this whole entire Labor Day weekend. This ruled for wrestling fans because Payback and All Out, to me, both of them for different reasons, they kicked a lot of ass. Well, I mean, for these two, they get a break from the pay-per-views. You will see my lovely face later this week, but I will be joined by Will because me and Will will be covering the Victory Road pay-per-view for Impact. That is going to be it for the All Out pay-per-view review. If you like what we do, hit the notification on YouTube, subscribe, pass this along, follow us on all the social medias at BC WrestlePod. Please have conversations with us. They are a great time. But until next time, that is going to be it for us. So until next review, see you laters.